Within the last week or so, we did get a trade deal announced and the stock market did break even on the year. But we are not out of the woods yet, and there are still some, let's call them issues or speed bumps that will present themselves and cause some issues. Because at the end of the day, here is a problem facing us all. You don't have unlimited money. I don't have unlimited money, and neither one of us watching this video, or in this case me recording it, we don't have unlimited time to search and scour the absolute best investments, and because we don't have unlimited money, you ain't got time to waste it. So what are the absolute best ETFs, exchange traded funds, for us to consider given this moment, and what is it around the corner that we should be concerned about given what is going on right now? So let's go ahead and break it down. Now, while the stock market was, I would argue, distracted by what happened, what is it that's around the corner? Now, yes, the tariffs did go down, and yes, the stock market did go up, and we were positive, which is a good thing. I've even said that as much, right? I'm glad that the stock market was up. However, a 30% tariff is still essentially a tax. We still will start to pay more. If you don't believe me, I've done a short video here on YouTube and on Instagram and other places from the Walmart CFO saying you will start to see double-digit increases. Now, whether you like that or not, I've been saying that since last July here on YouTube. That is a fact. Will consumers, us, how are we going to respond? Will the economy start to shrink because we are not going to spend as much? How will the stock market respond to that? That is going to be an issue. How do you respond as an investor? One way to do so is to diversify, and to diversify outside of the US. And the reason why is because if you start to look outside of the US, you will see a lot of ETFs that are doing a lot better than what the S&P 500 is. The S&P top 500 companies or largest 500 companies in the United States. And in the last 6 months, the S&P 500 has been up just 1%. In the last 12 months, over the last year, it's been up 12%. So here are the four that have done way better in most cases. There is a Chinese ETF that is tracking the tech stocks, some of the best tech stocks in China. The ticker symbol here, and I'll put the names here because some of these names are quite long, but it is CQQQ. It is up 5% in the last 6 months and up 15% over the last year. Now, there are some risks here. There are risks with every investment, honestly, right? But the main thing is, and the easiest way to explain this is, yes, the US and China, we got beef, we've got tariffs between those, right? And don't forget that another risk here is these could change. This 90-day window where the tariffs are lower is just 90 days. They may change. It could go higher, it could go lower. We're not entirely sure. The benefit of investing in an ETF is you don't have to pick and choose what you think is the right stock. You get a basket of them. So that is the best thing. But here's the thing. China may not have an ETF with the European Union. That makes some of those companies more valuable. So they may not export things here to the US, and that may drop, and we are their biggest trade partner and vice versa, but they can still sell stuff to other people, and that's generally a good thing for them. So that's one reason as to why Chinese tech stocks are doing well according to this ETF. So that's one place that you may want to consider. We'll talk about how much you should invest in each of these and how they may fit into your portfolio as well. So add that one to your watch list. Quick time out. I know we've been talking a lot about investing today. However, if you don't know where to start or you haven't started yet, I have a free guide on how you can buy your first stock in just 20 minutes. To get that free guide, check out the link right here. All right, back to the video. Next here is a European financial ETF. Now, earlier this year, I was more bullish on financial stocks. Where we are now in May compared to where we were in January, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. But there are still some financial stocks that are doing quite well or better than the overall stock market. But this ETF, it is up 32%. 32% in the last 6 months compared to just 1% for the entire S&P 500. One of these things are not the same. Okay, so 32% in the last 6 months, up 31% over the last year. A European financial ETF. That is definitely something worth raising an eyebrow, and I would absolutely pay attention to that. Why is that the case? I mean, it's something that's relatively stable. We don't have as much flux and craziness in Europe in this matter than what we do here in the US. One other thing just to keep your eye on, and I might, if y'all ask me especially, I gotta know if y'all are interested in it, but we are looking at passing a tax bill that will change the US's financial situation. We did get a downgrade on the US credits, like getting a lower credit score, and that can make things much more difficult in the financial sector for the US. Not necessarily banks per se, but just the finances of the country. So we'll see where that goes. This one, this next one rather, is perhaps my favorite. All right, it is a gold ETF. IAU is the stock symbol here, and it is up 26% in the last 6 months and up 36% over the last year. Why is gold good right now? Gold has had its spurts, and we have talked about it every now and then on this channel. And the reason is because people flock to gold when there is chaos. They see it as a store of value. And when people don't know whether it's going to be a recession or what the dollar is going to do, people go to gold. Now, the confusing thing for many investors is, should I go and buy physical gold or should I go for a gold ETF? Now, how you do it is up to you. I would argue, and my viewpoint on it, and if it were me, I would go to a gold ETF. It is easier for you to get, and it is way more liquid. By liquid, I mean you can get your app, buy it, sell it, go on about your business, and the fees to do so are extremely low compared to some of the other ways to do it. I've written an article on Business Insider, I've written a few articles on Business Insider on gold IRAs and some of the companies out there, and there are a lot of fees for you to transfer an IRA, buy gold, and there are $50 to open an account, $200 a year just to hold the gold, to buy physical gold bars and all kind of stuff. And they'll put it in a safe and do all these nice things to it and keep it there. But you're paying sometimes hundreds of dollars a year just to hold it. And the value will go up, but if you want to sell it, you have to sell it back to them, and you may or may not get the same value for what you paid for it based on where gold is in that time and space, right? So right now gold is up. Perhaps you'll get a profit, and that's fine. But still, there's a lot going on there. If you hold gold bars at your house, which sounds dope, I guess, but there's also a risk too, because you're going to need a safe, hopefully, unless you got gold bars sitting around. But that goes into a whole different tangent. Gold ETF is easier to do, okay? And you can clearly, at least in the past, we'll see what happens in the future. You could have made a pretty decent profit, and perhaps that will be the case in the near future. Next here is a Vanguard ETF. It is, again, another long title, but it's an all-world ex-US index fund. It's the most conservative. When we say ex-US, that means basically, simple terms, it is the whole world minus the United States. Again, we're looking for diversification, okay? I would argue, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, you can still hold the S&P 500. I personally am still holding the S&P 500, but you want a bit more outside of the US, and it is up 9% in the last 6 months. Reminder, S&P 500 is only up 1% in the last 6 months, but past performance, future results, not the same. But it's only up 7% in the last year compared to 12% for the S&P 500. So 6 months, way better. 12 months, not so much. So that one is perhaps the most conservative and also the most diverse, because it is not just China. It's not just, European finance stocks, which is even more specific. It is the entire world minus the US. So the whole world minus one country. So it's the most diverse, perhaps the less risky, if I were just to, blanketly paint something or paint an idea of what this particular fund is. So that kind of gives you a scale of what the risk factor is. So less risky, perhaps VEU is perhaps less risky. The most risky to me, the most risky is perhaps the Chinese tech fund. So how you want to invest is completely up to you. What I like, for me, I am leaning more towards the European fund and the gold fund. I don't typically I don't put a ton of gold, so I'm still sticking to that 5% rule. I would probably stick maybe 6 to 7% perhaps, because the ETF is a bit different for the European fund, and we'll see, right? We'll see where the market goes. You guys know I don't make too many adjustments to my portfolio until June, which is right around the corner. So we'll see, and I'll let you guys know what adjustments I make, and we'll see where the market goes at that point in time. How do you make these changes, and should you just buy them all, and do you sell the entire S&P 500? Again, your portfolio is yours, okay? Now, generally, no, I don't think it makes sense to sell the entire S&P 500. You know, history shows that the S&P 500 does outperform, or does recover rather, over time. It has recovered already, for the most part, already this year, which is not what I expected so quickly, but I did expect it to do well. I've got many videos already telling y'all that people were overreacting, okay? So we'll see what it does at the end of the year. Hopefully it continues to recover, but no, I wouldn't sell all of it. What I would do is say, look, I've got my US coverage, but what am I going to do to add to my portfolio to just spread my risk out, right? So I've got 80% in the US, maybe I'll take it down to 75%, right? Maybe 70%, and add, you know, a little from Europe, or just the all world fund, just to give me a little bit more so that I'm not at risk if things continue to deteriorate or something unexpected happens, a new bill, a new tariff, whatever, right? And you have some other place to go, and your portfolio is not as much of a risk, or not at risk as much as what it may have been if it were 100% S&P 500 and absolutely nothing else. Now, you can also talk to a financial advisor and have them help you, because this is one of those times where this is a little bit more of some complex math in terms of where you are in your retirement cycle and which one of these funds or other funds might actually make sense. And they will come up generally with 5 to 6 funds, what percent you should be, and how often they should be adjusted. There are also robo-advisors and other things out there that can help do this for you. If you want some other resources as well as other stocks that you may want to consider, you want to check out this video right here.